All right, in this video, we're going to be covering section 2.2, which is going to be an introduction to circles. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of their characteristics and then also draw some of them for practice. So what I want to begin with in this video is, first of all, the basic equation of a circle. Now, circles are technically can be written in two different ways, but really only one of them is beneficial to what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be talking about what is called the standard form of the equation of a circle. And so what that is, you can see right here, is whenever you want to write the equation of a circle, we will use the formula x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. Now, the x and y are just going to be parts of the problem. The h, the k, and the r are going to be values either that you will be given or you may have to find at different times in problems. So let's go over what those three things are. Number one, your h and k come directly from the center of your circle. So as you can see in my picture over here, whatever that point is that represents the center of a circle, we will call that our point hk, where the h value will get plugged into this piece of the equation and k will get plugged in to this piece of the equation. The second thing, or I guess I should say the third thing, is the r value. The r value is called the radius of a circle. And so what you might remember is that radius is the distance from the center of a circle to the outside edge of the circle. And really, no matter where I draw a line at, all of these will have the same distance, which are all called the radius of the circle. Whatever this r value is, whether they're giving it to you or whether you got to find it, this r will get plugged in on the right-hand side of your equation. Now, what you will notice is that all three things, including the r at the end, are all squared. So keep that in mind as we write our equations out. And then my second thing to make sure we note here is that this formula is built on subtraction inside the parentheses. So when you see an x minus h and a y minus k, those are actually positive values. So this is our first formula of a few that's going to have a built-in opposite direction from what you're used to. So in this case, the minuses mean positives, and if you ever see a plus sign, which we will today, that's where the negative numbers will be incorporated. So let's begin with an example where you just have to either write your own equation or find the necessary information from the equation given. So this instructions say either write the standard form of the equation of the circle, or if given the equation, find the center and the radius. So on number one, you've got the center of -2, 3, and a radius of 5. So just remember, this center value is what we call h and k, and obviously the r is already labeled for us. And the formula that we are using is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. And all you have to do at this point is plug these three numbers into this equation. And so this will end up giving us x minus -2 squared plus y minus 3 squared is equal to 5 squared. You'll notice inside of the first parentheses, you have a double negative. So we all know that that goes to positive. So that's x plus 2 squared. We will leave the y minus 3 squared alone. And then on the right-hand side, 5 times 5 gives us 25. And this is as far as you have to go. This is the standard form of a circle. And as I noted at the end of the last slide, remember, when a value is negative, it actually becomes a plus, as you can see with the x plus 2. But when you have a minus built in, that means the value is positive, as you can see with the k. What you have to also be able to do is go the other direction. So what if I go ahead and give you the equation of the circle and you've got to find the center and the radius? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to identify what our h and k value are in order to write the center. Now, typically your h value is going to be a number that's being added or subtracted to x, but there's not a number there. That's okay, That just means if there's nothing there, it's understood to be 0. Versus your k value comes from the number being added or subtracted from y, which in this case is y minus 2. Remember, I told you have to think backwards with these, so you're not going to write down -2. You're actually going to write down +2 as the k value of your center. And so that is the center of your circle. The last number on the end, remember, that is going to be your r squared value. So when you're asked to find the radius of your circle, don't write down 36. What you have to do is take the square root of that number in order to get its radius. So in this case, the square root of 36 would be 6, and that is the final radius value of this problem. And so by themselves, they're not too bad. You can write the equation pretty quickly if you know the center and the radius. And likewise, if you're ever given an equation, you can find the radius and the center pretty quick. For the last couple of slides of this section, I want to talk about graphing circles so that you know how to do that on your homework. So on this first one, what I would like you to do is to find two things, or I guess really three things. I want you to find the center and the radius of the given circle. So we'll do that first, and then use that information to help you graph a picture of this circle. And so the equation I put in the notes is x minus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 9. So as you can remember, your h value comes from what's attached to the x, your k value comes from what's attached to the y, and your r value comes from the number on the end, which remember is r squared. So for the center of this circle, you need to identify the point hk. Well, since you have a -1 and that's how it's built into the formula, your h value is going to be +1. And since the k value is built into this +2, that means you have to go opposite, which means the center is going to be the point 1, -2. Your radius, aka your r value, remember, do not use the 9. You have to use the square root of that value to actually get the radius. And so the square root of 9 would be 3. When it comes to graphing this, what you're looking for on the ones on your homework and your assignments is to make sure that the center value is labeled. So the center would be right 1 on x and then down 2 on y. And then since the radius is 3, what I typically do is I start at the center and I'm going to go 3 units up, 3 units down, 3 units to the left, 3 units to the right to create my outer region of my circle. So I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go right 3, 1, 2, 3. Down 3. And left 3. And what should happen is if I connect all these outside circles, or I said dots, that should create my circle for this picture. And so there you go. That is the equation. That's the graph of the circle based on the given equation in number 3. All right, I want to do one more, but I'm going to add an extra thing you have to find as well. So for this one, I'm going to give you the equation of a circle, and something else I may ask y'all to do is 1, find the center and the radius. Number 2, I want you to find the intercepts of this equation. And then number 3, I want you to sketch the graph. So 2 of these 3 things are exactly the same. The intercepts will be the thing new with circles. So let's go through this again. Remember, h comes from the x, k comes from the y, and the radius comes from your r squared value. So for my center, which is hk, this is going to be equal to, there is no value with x, so that's understood to be 0. And since there is a minus already built in, your k value will be 2. For the radius, which is your r value, just remember to take the square root of your r squared. So the square root of 4 would give you a radius of 2. And then what's new here is your intercepts. So we found intercepts in the last video, but now we're going to do them with circles. So I'm going to change colors to red so it's easier to follow. Remember from the last video, the definition of an x-intercept is the y value must be 0. So if I let y be 0 in the original problem, you will get x squared plus 0 minus 2 squared equals 4. This is x squared plus negative 2 squared equals 4, which is x squared plus 4 equals 4. And if you subtract 4 from both sides here, you're going to end up getting x squared equals 0. And then when you try to take the square root of both sides, you're going to get an x value of 0. So that means this circle should cross the x-axis at 0. So I'm going to put a dot on my x-axis at 0. I'm going to work the exact same thing out for my y-intercept. Remember, that means that your x value is going to be 0. So that would be 0 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 4. Well, in all honesty, y'all, the 0 squared doesn't do anything, so I'm just going to ignore that. And then we are going to get rid of this squared value by taking the square root of both sides. So we're going all the way back to our square root property from chapter 1, which will give me a y minus 2 equals plus or minus 2. It's been a while since we've done that in the videos, but remember, when you take the square root and you're solving for a variable, the square root property says you have to put a plus or minus. And then what you have to do here is you are going to add 2 to both sides, which means you have to add 2 to both values. So positive 2 plus 2 is 4, where negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So we have two y-intercepts where this will cross the y-axis at 0, which I actually already have a dot there, and it also crosses the y-axis at 4. With those, along with your center and your radius values, we can finish plotting this circle. So we know we have a center at 0, 2, so I'll plot my center there. And since the radius is 2, remember you want to go 2 units in our 4 directions, up, down, left, and right. Well, you'll notice the up and down are already done for you because of the intercepts. All you need now is the right, so I'll go right 2, and I'll also go left 2. I'll play connect the dots, and you have your circle that's represented by the original equation. And so this one was a little bit more work, but you can still find the center, the radius, and not only that, the intercepts of a circle that will help you draw it as accurately as possible. That wraps up my video for section 2.2 and the basic ideas of circles. In the next couple of videos, we're going to tackle section 2.3, where we're going to move into one of the bigger ideas that comes up in algebra, which is the slope of a line. So make sure you be ready for that video coming up next.